Welcome back. It is week 10 of Easy Education. I'm Easy to Chris, and I'm hoping that I can make education easy for you. This week, week 10, we're going through the second half of Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And the theme of this week is what schooling does well and poorly. The lens in which we are reading is education versus indoctrination versus formation. And the focus that we're going to be talking about today is where formal education succeeds and fails adults. Now, I'm going to put this over here. Here's kind of interesting thing. The second half of this book is a lot more theoretical as opposed to experiential. The first half of this book really talks about the time that Viktor spent in Auschwitz in the concentration camps and what his personal experience was going through. And for me, I really resonate with memoirs. I learn a lot from people's experiences. So when it becomes a little bit more clinical or academic, I have a really hard time following. So I'm going to be really, really honest. The concept of logotherapy was a lot more academic and it was a bit harder for me to follow. So this week's content being the entire second half, which is his brief introduction to the concept of logotherapy, was definitely a bit harder for me to follow. I wound up spending all week actually trying to listen to the audiobook, giving myself some time where I could really focus on the concept of it. And the context of it is it's an alternative look to Freud's psychotherapy. And logotherapy is really looking at having an understanding of your meaning and your future as a means to prevent suicidal ideation. And I think that that's important because rather than being introspective of who you are as a person or retrospective of the things that have happened in your past, it really asks the question of what is your purpose for living? And if your purpose is to bring greater purpose for someone else, then you can find meaning in your life. It's always interesting whenever the universe decides to kind of give me a lesson and an opportunity in the same time frame. Because this week I went to the barber college here in town to discuss with them the ideas of going back to school, getting my instructor's license, being able to pursue future efforts. And one of the questions that kind of came up during this whole thing was, is it worth it? And monetarily, no, it's not. I could potentially get a certification or a licensure to be able to work in a school, but what I do right now, I financially make more money than what I would be able to do working in a school. It'd be kind of neat to be an educator, but it's a bit of a thankless job. It's, less value of my time, so that proposition doesn't really sell the idea. And then I really started thinking, okay, why would I want to be an educator? And it's kind of the same thing that I'm doing with this. It's because I really love being able to provide experiential knowledge to other people. And this is, again, one of the reasons why I really like memoirs. And tying it on the focus of this week, where how does formal education fail people and how does it fail adults specifically? We all learn the way that we learn. You can either be a tactile learner, you can be an auditory learner, you can be a visual learner, but we all learn the way that we learn. And personally, I am somewhere between a tactile learner and an experiential learner. And the experiential is, I need to experience it, I need to feel it, I need to understand it. But also, I can understand other people's failures, so I can learn from other people's failures. And I think that recognizing that specific way of learning is kind of hard in a formal academic setting, because a formal academic setting is trying to get you to get good grades. And it's not necessarily teaching you the lessons of what not to do a second time. And whenever you're having a failure, failure is only defined as that if you fail to see the lesson out of that experience. If you learn one thing not to do, then you are that much better the next time you make the attempt. And if you fail another time but in a different way, you've learned another thing not to do and you're getting a lot closer. It's a lot like the invention of the light bulb. You know, you've got however many thousands of failed attempts and still continuing on, and I've learned this many thousands of ways how not to do it, and then the light bulb was invented. So I really think that one of the things that fails adults when reconsidering education is, how will this formal education apply to me directly? Now, I'm thinking about a lot of this stuff because I recently had a new opportunity to be able to relook at the idea of going back to school. And this has been a lot for me to think about this week, and especially with this whole logotherapy concept that I'm covering while this opportunity has presented itself. Because I really do think that if I were to go to a formal education and go to a college or university, I would struggle a lot. And I think that the reason that I would struggle a lot is because they're aiming for you to have success. They're aiming for you to have good grades. They're not necessarily rewarding you for failure. They're only rewarding you if you can pass your class and continue on. I might personally get some benefit out of the failure, but that doesn't necessarily mean the school will recognize that. So, you know, is the path of a traditional education the right one for me, or is continuing into my trade and building on the industry that I've already made a career and made a reputation of myself, is that worthwhile because of my joy of being able to educate others and finding an opportunity to learn the way that I learn, to be able to provide the experience to others? And I do think that, you know, when I can give other people that aha moment, that is kind of my, that's my dopamine hit. I really, really love it when I've been able to help somebody understand something that they can't figure out on their own. So I do think that there is definitely a pathway there that I could be pursuing. Who knows? We'll see what winds up happening. Right now, I enjoy this informal education. I really enjoy being able to kind of figure out the things that I want to learn just for the sake of learning, keeping my mind sharp, being able to develop a skill set that I wasn't previously comfortable with. One of the interesting things about this informal education is how much more comfortable I've gotten in this space. When I first started, especially when I started using this camera setup, it was so intimidating. And I would sit in this room, just kind of stand in here for 10 to 15 minutes and think like, I don't know what it is that I'm going to say. I don't know how it is that I want to present this. I don't even understand why it is that I'm doing this. This is just silly homework that I'm doing. And a lot of the essays that I was writing and having graded, it's coming back very, very harsh feedback, which is what I was wanting. And I would argue that my writing is getting better. However, what it's grading me as is, if I were to write a thesis or an essay that needs to be published in a peer-reviewed magazine, which that's not me at all. I'm speaking from my experience. I'm speaking in my voice, and I want my voice to be the thing that carries across in my essays. And I've realized as I continue doing this, the more experience that I get with something, the more comfortable I am with it, and the more comfortable with myself that I am. You know, the first episode of me recording, I really struggled just being in here and talking and carrying on a one-sided conversation with myself, because the whole concept of climbing Cringe Mountain is a very real thing, and it is been very difficult learning to be comfortable with myself as my wife is in the other room, hearing me just talk to myself in my room. It's kind of this weird place that you're in. But then today I realized I don't know why I'm so worried about these things. I've been doing it now for 2.5 months. This is easy. I can just talk. That's what I do for my entire career is I talk to people. Yeah, I cut hair, but for the most part, that's only a portion of the job. Building relationships and communicating with people, that is probably the hardest part of my job, and it's the one part of my job that I actually think I do pretty well. So, having said all of that, let's kind of bring it back into the logotherapy and the second half of this book. Ultimately, what I'm taking away from this is when you are lost, understanding your impact in this world helps you find your own meaning. And once you understand the impact that you want to make and how it builds you up, you can find yourself out of that hole pretty quickly. So today was the day that I finished Man's Search for Meaning. Overall, fantastic read. I think it's really insightful. Again, the first half was definitely a lot more impactful to me directly, but being able to see the experience and then understanding how those experiences worked through the academic study of logotherapy, it makes a lot of sense. And I can definitely recommend anybody to read it if for no other reason, but truly understanding that the one freedom that we do have as people is our ability to respond to any situation in a way that we choose to. So that's probably my greatest takeaway from it. What do you guys think? Have you guys had a chance to read it? Or what would you do to really change your perspective on how the meaning of life is for you, so that way you can be able to find more joy in the menial things that you do? Next week is going to be week 11, and it's going to be kind of a weird week for me because I believe week 11, it's the last week of quarter 1 for me. So I am done with all of my reading that we've got. I've actually got to order my quarter 2 books. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going through my 3 strongest essays that were graded from this entire quarter. And I'm just going to kind of synthesize all of that with what this quarter has taught me overall. And that's literally what the lens is the integration. And the focus is what adult self-education actually requires. So I'm kind of excited to realize that I made it through the first quarter. I'm really excited to see how the second quarter is going to shift, because I know how a lot of this is integrated, and I'll definitely be talking more about that next week. But in the meantime, week 12 is going to be my off week. So if there are any things that you guys would like to hear or explore or discuss, leave them in the comments below. I would love to be able to have some opportunity to work on something that you guys have an idea around. If you're not already following, you should check out the subscribe button. It's down there, I promise you. And the podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, as well as YouTube. If you're interested in any of the essays that I'm writing alongside of these videos, you can check out my Substack. The handle is Easy to Chris, or you can find the essay and the video content on my website, easytochris.com. But until next week, when we go through the entire first quarter all together, be well, guys.